So, as you know, we've been having the RMRs, and the RMRs, for those that don't follow CS but just watch my content because they like watching a man-child lose his mind, the RMRs are the regional major ranking qualifiers that get you into the CS major. They are a big deal. I actually agree with Maui Snake's take that it has become the most significant tournament, and when I do the RMR review, I'm going to talk about how I fucking miss me with dickheads crying, not because of the glory of the game or the going to a world championship, but because they got $200,000 in sticker money. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that tomorrow, probably. But they happened. Falcons were in them. And Falcons, as I said, they've been airlifted into Tier 1 based on the faulty premise that by buying Entz's core, they're somehow as good as Entz and buying their way into Blast. And so they've been able to get all this practice against good opposition, but they couldn't get through the RMR. They're not going to be at the major. And so, fortunately, we've avoided that tricky situation of if you attend a CS major and you're going to go there, you have to disclose ownership, all the people that might have any conflict of interest, right? So they haven't had to do that this time. Not that they would have had to have done that, but I would have liked to have been able to complain about it when they didn't. So I was denied something that was important to me. But whatever. And so anyway, they didn't make it through. And it's hilarious the way they didn't make it through, guys. Because, remember the memes? Remember when Sonic declared, oh, that's giant Sonic, I am the bag. And that was why he said people should join Falcons. I am the bag. Right, remember that? I'm just going to leave that there for a moment while I talk. Remember when he declared he was the bag? He was the reason to go there. Here's what I don't dislike Sonic. I want to make that abundantly clear. And he is the GOAT of coaching in CS. But here's the thing. What about today, dickhead? You always have to keep that question in your brain. It's got so many useful applications, right? He supposedly got the team that he wanted. It was a core that was in the top 5 in the world at the time. And they've been playing in these tournaments, and he's had time to practice with them, and he failed to get through the RMR. Can we criticize the bag now? Are we able to do that? I say yes. Do you want to know why? I'm going to tell you. I've been talking to all the analysts and folk that are going to be working the upcoming CS Major. And I've said, listen, guys, I don't usually proffer feedback unless it's asked for. But something to think about. You guys should think about where we're at narratively with this game. And what I mean by that is it's a totally different game. And it's with a totally different format. Right? It's MR12. And we're making all these comparisons. And we're talking about a year ago in CSGO. It's irrelevant. It's gone. The most important thing to be talking about when you get to the major is going to be the RMRs, and I would advise everybody to hermetically seal their criticism and analysis and praise solely within that context. That's what I would do. That's what I'm going to be doing in my videos. I'm not going to be pointing and going, oh, well, he did this in 2018 or whatever, because you can make an argument it's not relevant in 2024 anyway, but it certainly isn't relevant to CS2. Right? They haven't fixed the economy yet. There will be changes coming, no doubt, most likely after the major. MR12, some people like it, like me. Some people hate it, like Duncan. He did a tweet the other day saying MR15 was, what was it, a ribeye steak with mashed potatoes, veg, and gravy. And MR12 is a smaller steak, fewer veg, and no gravy at all. So, you know, that's his view. I don't share it, which is strange because we are meant to be the same person. The sort of what are they called? Conjoined twins. But we're not on the same page on MR12. I actually think for me it saved my interest in the game because the games were becoming unfucking bearable to watch. With that proviso, I think it's fair to criticize Sonic, and I think it's fair to say he failed. Again, Thorin doesn't share this opinion because obviously it was a new team. They were fresh, you know, and the RMRs are tough and very high pressure. So, not me. I say, Sonic, this is the first time you can really point your finger at him. And remember, in CS2, he ain't done shit. So, let's take a look at their results. Because that's why I think it's a failure. Because when you look at these games, you're going to go, wait, what? How? It's the Entz core with Magisk and Boros? Right. So, let's have a look. They beat 3D Max. Yay! That makes sense. Tatar shitters. Well done. They lost to FaZe. Boo. Okay, that makes sense, though. Because FaZe are fucking sick right now, right? So, okay. And it's a best of one. right? Then they lost to Eternal Fire. Well, I don't know about that one, Chief. That's a boo. That's a big boo, isn't it? So it's fine, though, because nobody goes out on a best of one in the RMRs. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a best of three against Checks Notes S1mple. And if you look at the team, this is, again, an experienced, tenured team. You've seen these guys. You know Nickelback. You know Crad. You know Forrester. But the Ents core with Magisk and Boros, I'm going to say shouldn't be losing in a best of three to these guys. Right, just saying it. But they did lose a best of three, and they went out the tournament. And funnily enough, actually, there was much rejoicing. There was a Reddit thread, and here you go, see? Reddit were in agreement with Richard Lewis for the rarest of times, and I'm in agreement with Reddit. A truce, a temporary truce. All the people on Reddit were talking about the result and saying, yeah, I'm glad, actually. I'm glad, because they tried to buy success. That's the perception around it. Now, of course, because it's Reddit, they won't apply that evenly to everyone. Like if, you know, but there's been a lot of gloating about people who spent big and failed lately. And Falcons are one of them, and Astralis is another. But of course, like if Na'Vi spent 10 million to assemble a super team, you know, whatever it would be, you know, bring Munisi back or all that. Of course, everyone would cheer them on and they want them to succeed. It's just inherent bias. You know, the failures only apply to people who are unpopular. So they didn't go. And I want to just tell you a little story. I was watching the games. You're going to go, wow, Richard, you're watching the games. Now, obviously, as we've established, I don't have a high-level understanding of CS. In fact, it's just like one big fireworks display. I'm a fucking moron. 20 years watching the game. Never understood it ever. Right? Just, oh, he's shooting him. Oh, he's dead. Bang, bang. That was all my commentary ever was. That was my analysis. That's all I ever say as a host. So, oh, his head's popped off. Ooh, ooh, why is he blind? Well, Richard, flashbangs are in the game. So, you know, I'm just watching it like a total cretin and no information's going in. But I did notice something, right? I did notice that Boros seemed to make a number of what I would consider, with my primitive brain, stupid plays. Needlessly aggressive pushing, weird duels that he's trying to take, dry peeking, you know. Things that you don't see a lot of in high-level Counter-Strike. Certainly not persistently. And, you know, I'ma just say, I think Boros is a player with a lot of raw potential. Proved that when he was in Monty. You look at his stats overall in the matches, you're going to see something that I want you to pay attention to. And we have to kind of go back, right? So, he's one of these players that needs to iron out these issues in his game, undoubtedly, unquestionably. Because you can see, this was his Monty years. Like, that's a lot of fucking green. And he popped off in some fucking big games. Remember when Monty beat fucking Na'Vi? And again, I know these are apples to oranges comparisons because we're in CS2. So he was coming into CS2, you know, a player that had certainly had some notable highs. But you will also note that he had some stinkers. He was always capable of the odd terrible map. And that has happened consistently in CS2, where you get feast or famine with this motherfucker. Like, for real. You can see some of these ratings in CS2 are fucking insane, like god-tier ratings. And then you'll see red, and you will see ratings where it's like, oh god, that's embarrassing. And unfortunately for him, these embarrassing results came at the wrong time, because as you can see, these are important tournaments for Falcons, right at the top. Now, when I was watching him, I saw lots of mistakes in his game. Like, I get it. When you're feeling it, it's easy not to be thinking about the moment. But Boros, for me, made a number of dumb plays that would certainly have frustrated me as a coach. But I want to tell you all an anecdote, which if you watched Maui Snake's stream, you would have heard as well. But I'll repeat it here. Boros, so first of all, here's what I was told behind the scenes. Remember, I talk to players and people all the time, and you can do with this information what you want. This is just what somebody said to me. But when Falcons originally went international, the owners didn't want to drop Boros because obviously he's a player from an Arabic nation, and they thought for the purposes of identity in the fans, it would be good to have an Arabic-speaking player that the fans could cheer for. And so apparently Zonic, Magisk, they were never really feeling it with Boros. And if you remember, Zonic initially said, this is another reason to criticize him, everyone was going to get a chance, right? They were all going to get a chance, and then they were all fucking benched immediately. Fuck your chance. We've got money to spend. And then we had the Nico debacle and everything else. And, you know, there was all this talk about a super team of Nico and Munacy and Magisk and all these other people. And then, obviously, they ended up with Ent, Sun Pius, and, you know, whatever. So, Boros, I was told that Zonic and Magisk didn't want Boros on the team. And basically, they were told, look, give him a chance. Now, at one of the tournaments Maui was at, I can't remember which one it was, but after they'd lost the map, he said he audibly heard, I think it was Magis, get up and say to Zonic, I can't fucking play with this guy, right? And I haven't heard anything like that since Stewie 2K said it. back in the Cloud9 days. And Maui heard that and sort of was like, wow, that's kind of rough. And so I'll leave it up to you as to how generous you want to be in factoring in criticism for Boros's performance. Because I think when you're the odd one out and you know you're not wanted, I think it's very hard to be at your best, right? I'll also add, I think it's a failure of coaching. No? Yeah, absolutely. The fact that there was no appreciable improvement and he was still making these silly mistakes, I don't think Boros is an uncoachable player. Maybe he is. I've never worked with him. But I think it was more a case of, we don't want this player. We've been told to give him a chance, but we would rather he failed at that chance so we can bring in somebody we prefer. And I think this has been manufactured to that degree. So I say all of this because, well, the news, Boros was benched immediately after their failure to qualify for the RMRs. Now, listen, I'll just add, he did make a number of stupid plays, observably stupid plays in precious situations. He threw rounds. I mean, you can go and watch the games that they played. It was a persistent thing that happened. Honestly, he made some dumb plays even in their win. And in particular, the Eternal Fire game is criminal. But anyway, so he's benched immediately, and they said, regarding our CS2 roster, following a disappointing result from the RMR qualifier to the Copenhagen Major, we've decided that we will be moving Boros to the bench position as we review our team. As part of our transparency to our fans, we have moved Boros to the bench position for performance reasons as we look to rebalance the formation of our roster and move players into the necessary correct roles and positions. And again, as me and Maui talked about, on Falcons, there are positions where you want guys that can aim and frag out, and Boros he's not getting those positions. Snappy's in some of those positions. They're IGL. So, you know, Boros, for me, arguably set up to fail on that basis as well. Anyway, they want to focus for our long-term goals towards a major success in late 2024 and 2025. Further, our assistant coach, Rafael Feldman Rodriguez, will be leaving Team Falcons at this time. So, the assistant coach, you know, go fuck yourself. We thank them both for their commitment to our team over the last year, and we look forward to updating you all on what our permanent roster will look like for the ESL Pro League. We will be announcing a player shortly who will be joining us on loan for 1 month to cover the Blast Showdown tournament and allow us to continue evaluating our roster. We look forward to sharing this news alongside the plans of our future permanent replacement, Team Falcons. And so, I think Boros was probably done a little bit dirty. Right? But ultimately, if I was cutting someone, he's probably the odd guy out. So, has to happen, right? He's the guy who made the high-profile mistakes. He's the guy that got a stay of execution when everybody else got dropped. So, he did get sort of a chance and maybe blew it. I don't know. But here's what I do know. I also know that, like, people were memeing and saying, oh, Monty are better without Boros and stuff. And it's not true. And there's talent there. You know, think about, like, post-Endpoint. What did Endpoint do? Well, you know, once he went and, you know, I thought he was very good in Monty. He was fragging out when Monty were having their run and they were like the kings of Tier 2. So, hopefully he'll fall on his feet. And, there's going to be plenty of other Saudi-owned teams that might also be looking for a popular Arabic-speaking player. So I think there'll be opportunities there. But after this announcement, there was much memeing. Because, as you know, there is a high-profile player that's currently not playing for the org that employs him. You may have heard of him. It's a chap called S1mple. And so people were joking, going, incoming, Falcons S1mple, lol. And nobody believed it, right? Nobody thought for a second it would happen. But within moments after announcing the dropping of Boros, boom, here it is. S1mple in the Falcons jersey, a little Photoshop, a little here we go, right? Like it's a football transfer. Please welcome S1mple, who will be making his return to professional Counter-Strike as part of Falcons for 1 month on loan from Team Na'Vi. And funny story, because, it chips away at my insanity, but it's a good place to get a sort of temperature check for, like, the IQ of the average CS fan. I'm on the official Reddit CS Discord. I occasionally talk or answer questions in the esports channel. Typically just spend it arguing with people there, too, because I'm a man-child. But anyway, when that got posted in there, and it did the embed thing, people thought it was one of those stupid Photoshops. People didn't believe it was real, because this is a sort of potential, blockbuster move. Obviously, S1mple, theoretically, is an upgrade to Boros, because theoretically, his ceiling is the greatest player of all time. Now, let's talk about the logistics of this move, why this move has happened. I want to make it clear that Falcons have money. Don't know if you heard the word on the street. They got money to spend. And I imagine for that 1 month, they've paid a pretty decent fee. So there's that. For Na'Vi, it's a no-brainer. They had a hard deadline on when S1mple said he was returning to action. It's after this major. They want to do a major run without him. And S1mple said he needed the time off. And by the way, he's looking happier and healthier, so good for him. I can totally relate. So there's that. But here's the other thing. I want to look at it from the other side. What's in it for Na'Vi besides the transfer fee? Right, well, there is one org in the world that could potentially afford to buy S1mple outright. The rumours are he has a $2 million buyout clause. I don't know if that's true. It's just a rumour that everyone says. It's $2 million, it's $2 million. Everyone wants to sound informed when they're gossiping. So, I'd take it at face value, but it probably is true, but it might not be. There's only one org in the world right now, I think, that would be willing to pay that to bring a player of S1mple's caliber in. I mean, or you could be like Astralis and get Stabby instead for $2 million. But anyway, I have said this, and it is a controversial opinion, but I actually think Na'Vi have a simple problem. And I only mean for CS2. He is the GOAT for me. I think he's played at the highest level of CSGO. But we're in CS2, and he doesn't like it. And he says he wants to be a rifler because the AWP sucks. So he wants to change his game entirely. So he has become an unknown quantity. And when I say there's a problem, I mean any team S1mple is on, you are in his shadow. He shouts at people in-game. He criticizes people in-game. He will take people's roles in the middle of a game and say, this is how you do it. He will undermine IGLs, and he cannot be tamed. Blade can't even control him, this senior tenured man who's Na'Vi through and through. And it's not like this is a bad thing. It is a bad thing. It's not ideal, but it's S1mple. It's who he is. He sees the game so clearly, he doesn't understand, and certainly in the heat of the moment doesn't understand, other people can't see it as clearly as he does. Because for him, it is S1mple. He truly lives up to his name. But for everyone else, it ain't S1mple. It's fucking hard. And even the best players, that play alongside him historically don't conceptualize the game in the way he does and can't deliver the responses that he does with that information. And he gets frustrated with that. And I can empathise because he wants to win. He has a champion's mindset. When he was awarded, right, he took half the year off and was a top 10 player in the world by the end of it. Think on that. No one has done that in the history of the game. And that was considered a bad year for him. So this guy is fucking sick. He's on some other shit. But, spoiler, that might not be true. Remember what I said about you need to conceptualize. We're talking about CS2 now. He has a game he doesn't like, in a role he's never... Well, he has played it historically, but in a role that he hasn't played recently. And he wants to come back to Na'Vi, theoretically. Meanwhile, for the first time in Alexi B's career, he has a team of what I would call, you know, soldiers. They're the water carriers. They're the Makaleles. The type of footballer you want on your team. They listen to instructions. They do the dirty work. And they want to win as a team. I love the vibe about the new Na'Vi. They might not be at the highest level. I think s1mple wasn't ready for this level, this step up, and Reddit memed him in. And I think JL, he seems, you know, like he's a dude that's kind of like adapting to being in the spotlight and stuff like that. But I think nominally, you know, he's a good player, but he does have those odd maps where he goes missing and makes some mistakes. But I think collectively there can be the sum will be greater than the individual parts that make it up. And I think if you let Alexi cook, I think he can go places with this lineup. The last thing I think Na'Vi want to have happen is for s1mple to come back and be disruptive. So it is my theory, I will posit this theory to you and tell me what I think, that Na'Vi have actually played a fucking blinding move. Right? Because here's what they've done. They have loaned s1mple out for a month, no commitment, for money, to the only org in the world that could buy him outright. And I think they're hoping that they do. Because then you have a stable team. You're not going to have any chopping and changing with players. There's not going to be any attitude or any drama. And you can get back to winning ways, which to Na'Vi, the org's credit, they value championships. They value trophies. It's in their DNA. They actually do consider that the metric of success. They don't care about Twitter likes. They don't care about engagement. They care about fucking winning. And that's why they've been one of the most winningest teams at various periods in their history. So, the worst case scenario for this is s1mple goes out for a month, tries his new role, is sick at it, comes back, slots into the team, is sick, and Na'Vi win with s1mple again. That's the worst case scenario for Na'Vi in this move. So what they've done here is fucking, yeah, it's 5-head. Go on, type it in, chat. It is a 5-head move. They literally cannot lose no matter what the outcome is. So Na'Vi, this is one of the best bits of transfer business I've ever seen. A paid loan for 1 month, maybe with the offer to buy him, because that was alluded to in an interview one of the Na'Vi executives did. They said, we'll see how it works out. They don't rule out that he could get bought. And s1mple, personally as well, it's a 5-head move for him. Because if you go and you play with Falcons, and you get to try out this role, and they're going to plug him in as a rifler, obviously, he can learn it. He could try it out. And if he's shit... he just says, lol, just a loan. Who cares? I was just practicing. Just fucking around for a month. What can you really expect? Just one tournament, no big deal. Right? So it's a big fucking W for him. Now, where it might fall down, and this is where I can see it going wrong. I called this on Maui's stream. I don't think s1mple will go the entire month without there being a weird incident where he picks up the AWP again and puts s1mpius on a rifle. Reckon that will happen. I reckon everyone's going to be so psyched initially at the idea of playing with s1mple, and then the reality of playing in a team with s1mple. If s1mple doesn't respect you, you're in for a bad time. And s1mpius, for me, I don't think is a player that's going to be like, s1mple's going to be in awe of, or think he's like outstanding or excellent. Particularly when you know s1mple has played with his own idol and called him shit. He played with Markelov in a team and just called him dog shit. And he said, like, and he literally used to watch his demos and want to be him. That's the level s1mple's on, right? Like, imagine, like, I got to play in a team with my sports hero and I called him dog shit. Like, it's unreal. But he did do that. And he played with Guardian as well. You know, he's played with the cream of the crop. And you've got to be a really good player to fucking impress him, right? And so I don't know if Falcons has that roster. And I don't know if S1mple will be impressed. And so I can see it being one of those moves where it's going to start out as being like, oh, this is delicious. And then you're going to get 3 or 4 mouthfuls into the chocolate cake and you're going to start feeling sick. So I don't think the move will be permanent, maybe on that basis. But I'll also say, Falcons next tournament, give them some serious attention, because I think it's going to be a blast, and they can win that. They can win that tournament. People don't try their hardest. It's just a blast, man. That's what they all say behind the scenes. And S1mple has proven that he is a fucking legendary stand-in. Even on that Team Liquid team, where people, like, there were people on the team that didn't like S1mple, and he fucking didn't like them. Think about, like, what he did. And that was back then. That was before he was the Great One. You know, he's got the one in his name. I coined that. You know, he is the Great One. So I think this move is a banger. Like, I mean, look, obviously never going to cheer for Falcons for the reasons I have detailed. Obviously, I'm never going to cheer for Falcons. But I have to commend, just on a neutral level, the kind of ambition. If this is what you do to get a stand-in for a single tournament that ultimately doesn't mean all that much, it is mega. It's mega exciting. Like, if the money just wasn't, you know, seeped in blood, it would be fine. But it is, so it's not. But, you know, obviously super, super exciting. And great for Sonic, because, you know, he now gets to say, you know, he's coached S1mple, he's coached Device, and he's coached Z-Wu. I mean, that's like that's a mega feather in your cap. And obviously Yugi as well, yeah, of course. And Boros, and he's done them all. So, no, I think a lot of people were, like, super curious about this move. It's like they're playing Football Manager with a cheat code on, a little bit. And maybe this isn't great for them long term. Maybe they decide they don't want to follow through. But I'll also just end giving my opinions by saying I legitimately believe that there is a chance that S1mple would go to Falcons full time. I think if you know anything about him, he's a guy who he likes to take risks with his career. He's very self-confident. He has, like, you know, a swagger to his demeanor. He likes doing things that buck trends. It's why I always said, gun to my head, will he go to professional Valorant when he gets bored of CS? I could totally see it. 100%. He's just that type of dude. Like, he is him. Like, not everyone is him, but he is him in the esports world. He can do what he wants. And this is a guy who, like, you know, he's up to playing on, like, other teams if he respects the players. You know, went to Team Liquid, nearly went to MIBR. Why wouldn't he go to Falcons if he had confidence in the project and where they were going to go? I don't even think that Falcons lineup now with the Ents core, I don't even think that'll be... I think they could even change some of them up after the major. They might upgrade a piece or two. But they just had to get in. They had to get the team in so they could get into this major cycle. That's very important to them. They wanted the stickers in the game. You know, they want to show that the org's good. They've always said, don't judge us on what we do at the start. We want to be successful by the end of 2024 and throughout 2025. They didn't do a threat in NIP going, we're just going to write off 2024, yeah? Just call that a do. Just ignore it, yeah, if you will, fans. Is that all right with you? So, listen, there's a great way to deal with failure, and it's to do something so exciting, spectacular, or strange that it takes everyone's mind off the fact you failed. And so for this move, 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. And I'm going to watch the Falcons games, I guess. More of that. You've twisted my arm. And don't rule out a permanent move. And if they do have a permanent move, game on.